So the next time you met Tupac, give me the backstory on that. When did you meet Tupac again? When did you and Tupac run into each other again after that?
When we ran into each other again was on October 18th, 1995, and I'll never forget that night. This goes into all of the things that have been said in regards, or by Faith Evans, in regards to Tupac in her book, whether on Vlad TV, and all of the other interviews and things that she's done. Basically, it's a lie, and I'm gonna give you that, and I'm gonna give you that, and we're gonna put this to rest right here and right now. So the next time I seen Tupac after that time at Bowie State University was on October 18th, 1995. And I was in the studio once again. I was in the studio with Grandmaster Melly Mel from Grandmaster Flash and the Furious 5 and Scorpio. And we were working on that album called Right Now. And I told him after I had laid down my parts for that album, I told him, I'm like, yo, I'm going to the Hollywood Athletic Club. And I remember specifically, it's a Wednesday night. And so I'm like, yo, I holler, yo, if y'all get, when y'all get done, stop down there. So I goes on down to the club, and it's popping. It's popping. All of the, my man Roland Work was the promoter. Rest in peace. He passed this year. And so when I get down there, I'm standing outside. The ladies, the line is around the building. It's just packed. This prime time. It's nothing to see major A-list celebrities there. It didn't matter. You know what I mean? And they were on low key. It wasn't no paparazzi out there taking pictures. You could see whether it was Denzel Washington, whether it was Wesley Snipes, Tupac, or whoever be there, right? So as I'm standing out on the sidewalk, boom, left turn on Sunset coming up to Schaefer. On Schaefer is where it's located at. Here come Tupac, pull up, boom, fresh 500 convertible Benz, brand new tags. It wasn't the black one, the black on black one that he had. It was a two-tone one. And Frank Alexander was on the passenger side. So Pac, he pulled like in the middle of the street. He ain't even park or nothing like that. He's pulling in the middle of the street. He didn't open the door, nothing. He grabbed the top of the windshield and the side of the door and just jumped over the door, with the little bop, that bop he got, that little fly-footed bop. And I would say a minute later, pull up Faith Evans. She pulls up in a cherry red M3 BMW with the top down. And so it's Tupac, he's walking over. She stops like right there in front of him. And like, she was like, hey, Pac, what's up? I'm like, yo. And it's like kind of like simultaneous. I'm like, yo, Pac, what up? He was like, hold on for a minute. And so he started talking to her. And they started chit-chatting or whatever. And I heard a little bit of what he said, she was like, what's up, Pac? And he was like, ain't nothing. He was like, I dig your music. I like your music, whatever. And that's basically kind of what I heard from that perspective. And then I was like, I'm not going to sit here and wait for him to sit here and talk to her. You know what I mean? Let me go on in the club. So I didn't wait. So I walk and I go into the club. So when I get into the club, the first person I see, hat backwards, 1 foot up on the wall, like if you standing in the hood, like with 1 foot on the wall and 1 foot on the ground, was Tretch. And so as I seen him, I walked up to him. I'm like, yo, what's up? Whatever, pleasantries and things like that. And then I said, yo, Tupac outside talking to Faith. He said, yeah, I'm waiting on him. So he was actually waiting on waiting on Tupac to get there, unbeknownst to me at that particular time. So we start just talking and, chit-chatting or whatever. And like when you inside of the Hollywood Athletic Club, to my right, they had like, I would say 9 pool tables. So like 9 pool tables, you could play pool. They had a DJ in the back. Upstairs was the VIP. And right over to my right was, they had like bar top tables with stools around them. So you could sit there too, have food, drinks or whatever. And so I look to my right and I see, I said, yo, is that Arnelle Simpson right there? And Tretch was like, yeah, she with me. And so I had to double back like, yo, shake his hand. I'm like, my motherfucking man, because he had bagged her. And so a couple of weeks before, you know, the O.J. Simpson trial that was going on, and nobody really knew that O.J. Simpson had a black daughter other than the kids that he had had with Nicole. So to everybody, I think around the world or around the nation at least, you know what I mean? It was like, okay, like, damn, O.J. Simpson got a bad one. Like, man, you know. And so as the trial was over, you know, as I'm coming in here and I see Tretch and, you know, he's like, yo, she with me. I'm like, okay, cool. So I was like, yo, can I go say hi, whatever. So I went over there. He actually walked me over there and I said hi to her in the whole 9 yards. And we kind of like, after that, I kind of seen other people that I knew there. And so just start talking and so on and so forth. So Tupac had came in, you know, everybody was surprised to see him because a lot of people didn't know he was out of jail. You know what I mean? He had got out of jail on the 12th of October. And this was actually 6 days later on the 18th. So as we, you know, get in there and start, you know, mingling around or whatever, later on, Tupac, he wants to smoke a cigarette. But he don't want to go out front because, you know, people out front, people be, you know, rushing up, want to take pictures and so on and so forth. So he talked to Frank Alexander and told Frank, you know, find out where we could smoke. So Frank went to the other security guard that was the security guard of the actual Hollywood Athletic Club and asked him, like, you know, is there a smoking area or whatever? So what he did was he led us to this side door that you can go out into the parking lot. So we went out through the side door into the parking lot, you know, and as we out there, you know, Pac smoking a cigarette and we just talking about various things. But more importantly, he was talking about how happy he was to be home. And he said that, you know, just last week, you know, I was in the maximum security prison, you know, in New York. And now I'm out here right now actually, you know, smoking a cigarette in Hollywood and how good that shit feel. You know what I mean? And I kind of can relate. I've been to prison before, so I know what that feel like. You know, when you go through that and you finally get out, it's like two different worlds. So, and so as we're standing out there and he's smoking a cigarette, Faith Evans and her girlfriend walk across the parking lot. So as they're walking across the parking lot, Tupac smoking a cigarette, he yelled across the parking lot. He like, y'all leaving? And Faith yelled back, no. He said, because we about to go to my hotel room. What y'all gonna do? And Faith Evans said, we're gonna follow you. And so that night, Faith Evans went back to Tupac's hotel room. Now, as we deal with her book, and when she released her book, she said a few things in her book that were outright lies. And that was the part that got me the most. More importantly, what she had said on Drink Champs. And she said that Tupac said to her that she had to give him head, or I'm gonna quote what she said. She said that she had to suck his dick to get her paycheck from recording the song "You Wonder Why They Call You Bitch," which was recorded, may I add, factually can be proven the next day on the 19th. Wonder Why You Call Your Bitch was recorded the next day on the 19th of October 1995. So with that, in her book, she made a lot of misrepresentations, or should I say outright lies, in regards to that. And so from that perspective, that's why I felt it was important for me to speak out in regards to that. So in one chapter in her book, she says that she tried to make it seem as if the incident the night of the Hollywood Athletic Club happened after the 14th of November, 1995, after the Waiting to Exhale soundtrack release party. And the reason why she did that is because Faith knew that if she was going to make up something about Tupac or a lie to insinuate something to sell her book, she knew that it had to be after the last time that she took a photo with him. Because if she told the truth about the night that they were actually together on the 19th when they recorded Wonder Why They Call You Bitch, and that was the night that they actually had sex, that Tupac had sex with Faith after that studio session. So if she was going to tell the truth or tell a lie, should I say, about that, it had to happen after the 14th, because that was the last time that they took a photo together. Because if she told it that it happened, that she went to the studio on the 19th, you would know that she seen Tupac again after they had sex. And she couldn't make it and demonize him and make the story up to be what it is now and saying all of these salacious things about him. So, and another thing that really put the nail in the coffin, the proverbial coffin, should I say, as far as her lying, was as they were sitting at the Waiting to Exhale soundtrack release party, so she says, she said that she made an observation of Tupac. And I'm going to paraphrase. She said that I thought Tupac was cool. I didn't see anything personally. I didn't dislike anything personally about Tupac. Now, this is 27 days after the first night that you met him, and 26 days after you recorded You Wonder Why They Call You Bitch, and 26 days after you had sex with him. So if you're at the Waiting to Exhale soundtrack release party, according to your book, and you basically state the fact that you don't see anything personally wrong with Tupac, you think that he's a cool guy, and so on and so forth, then that basically, blows holes in everything that you've ever said about him. And like I said, not only that, but if you go back to the fact that on June 12th, 1996, now this is 7 months. We're going to go 7 months after they had sex, after they recorded You Wonder Why They Call You Bitch. This is 7 months after June 12th, which is 8 days after Hit 'Em Up was released. Hit 'Em Up was released on June 4th, 1996. She did the interview with Video Music Box on the 12th. And in this interview, the interviewer asked her basically, he said, so what's the deal with you and Tupac? You and Biggie and Tupac. And she said, you going there? He's like, yeah, I'm going there. I want to go everywhere with it. You know what I mean? As far as asking her the question. And she said, I met Tupac and he was really, really nice, and so on and so forth. And basically that she had recorded vocals on a song with some girlfriends of hers, and that they wanted to use those vocals from that song for Tupac's album. Basically lying again and denying the fact that she knew at that time, on June 12th, 1996, that she had went into the studio with Tupac. But she was lying about that also. And so come 1998, when she does this book, now she comes out and says, well, after I went into the studio with Tupac, well, on June 12th, 1996, according to your interview, you never went to the studio with Tupac. Y'all didn't, it wasn't no business. Y'all didn't have no business or nothing like that. It wouldn't have been business. It couldn't have been business. These are the things that she said. And like I said, once again, the thing that hurt me the most was, and that made me speak out, is basically that she besmirched Tupac's name after his death. And if you were there at the Hollywood Athletic Club like I was that night, you would know that when Tupac wanted to work with her, that it was from his heart. There was no ulterior motive. He wasn't trying to have sex with Faith. That wasn't his motive to do that. And another thing, when they did the song, an LA Times reporter, Chuck Phillips, and this is how brilliant Tupac was as far as how he thought about how to capture that moment. They called Chuck Phillips down to the studio to do an interview. And while they're doing this interview, Faith is actually in the recording booth recording her vocals, having conversation and back and forth with Tupac, right? But see, this is the crazy part. Faith didn't know that she was being recorded. She couldn't have. Because if she did, she wouldn't have lied in her book about what she lied about, knowing that it could have been confirmed and proven to be a lie with that interview. So now, you have the interview, you have me there at the Hollywood Athletic Club, And like I said, you have Drew Down, Big Psych, rest in peace. They were there at the hotel at the Peninsula when she came through. And various other people, Ray J, you know what I mean? He was at the studio. He had made a comment about that also. So when you deal with the fact of the matter is, Tupac was telling the truth about everything that happened in regards to the Hit 'Em Up. And like I said, she had did that interview, that June 12th interview, 8 days after Hit 'Em Up was released. So it was crazy. And so another thing about the interview that Chuck Phillips had did, if Tupac was as vicious or malicious or as threatening as she said that he was, he could have basically released that interview and put it out there way before any of this other stuff happened. And the reason why he kind of went in on Hit 'Em Up was because, and Suge Knight had already talked about this, they were in the studio and she heard him using that track and went back to New York and supposedly had told Biggie and them about the track or whatever, or allegedly told Biggie and them about the track, and they came out with the Get Money. That's why Tupac, there's two versions of Hit 'Em Up, right? So there's the first version that they did that wasn't Hit 'Em Up, and then there was the version that they did after he had found out that she had went back there and did that, and then Tupac was mad, and then he went in, and that's why he came out with the first off, fuck your bitch, and the click you claim, and all of that stuff. So.
Right. Yeah, man. You said a lot, man. There's a lot I want to get into. But by the way, I mean, for people that don't know, you can actually search online and you can hear the audio of Faith Evans in the studio with Tupac, and she's recording her vocals for people that, want to search that. But another thing I want to do before I backtrack and ask you, a lot of stuff that you just said a whole lot that I want to get into. But as far as Ray J go, Ray J did say that he came into the studio and he seen Faith Evans sitting on Tupac a lot.
Absolutely, yeah. And Natasha Walker also.
Yeah, she said it too.
Natasha Walker was there also, like I said, and like I said, these are too many different people saying that. But like I said, my thing was, it wasn't even so much as because I knew, and I didn't get into this, but I knew that because Tupac told me that he had had sex with Faith on August 11th, 1996. So a couple of months later, if we go to the House of Blues, once again, I'm with, me, Melly Mel from Grandmaster Flash and the Phrase 5, Scorpio, and a friend of mine, Carlito. Our studio was on 7188 Sunset Boulevard, right next to the strip club, the Seventh Veil. And so right down the street from the House of Blues. And so I'm going to let you just, go on to this one part in regards to how that happened. So we get into the House of Blues, we go through the back way, go up the stairs, and once we get up the stairs, we talking and chit-chatting and whatever. We had met outside and so on and so forth. So I'm talking to Tupac. He had these like, they look like jailhouse scuffs, if you will, shoes. And I was like, yo, what kind of shoes was? I'm like, what's that? And I asked him, I was like, yo, what these jailhouse scuffs? He was like, nah, these Versace. Yeah, I think it was Versace or Gucci one. But I think it was Versace. He was like, nah, these Versace's, right? And so we chit-chatting, waiting for the Outlaws and Melly Mel and them to come upstairs. And like I told you, we had took a picture also in regards to that. And I still haven't found the photographer, the guy who took the picture, you know what I mean? Or the ones that he took of Tupac by himself that night. And so as we standing up there talking, see, the public knew about Hit 'Em Up. They heard Hit 'Em Up. And most people didn't have a point of reference to relate that to. So, me, I was there that night at the Hollywood Athletic Club. So I knew when they had first met, I knew like, okay, cool. I was in the parking lot for the conversation about, we about to go back to my hotel. What y'all gonna do? They go back to the hotel in the whole 9 yards. And so when we at the House of Blues, I asked him, I said, yo, did you hit Faith that night? Did you have sex with her that night? You know what I mean? He was like, nah, but I did the next day though. And it wasn't no big thing. And he understood why I was asking because I was there. You know what I mean? For the whole conversation, it was me, him, the bodyguard, Frank Alexander. We just standing out there talking. So when he was smoking a cigarette. So, he confirmed it. It wasn't nothing big. Like I say, even when you deal with that time, during that time, it wasn't nothing big. It wasn't no big thing Like, you know what I mean? Like, people would make it because it was just people in the industry getting together. It was cool. Like I said, he wasn't coming from no disrespectful place, and it was all love. And actually, man, he was really trying to help Faith out. He was trying to help her out. Like I said, you know, just from his heart, he didn't look at it from, you know, this is Biggie's wife and I'm not going to deal with her, or I got some kind of grudge. He didn't come from that perspective. It was all love. Trust me. I was there. I seen it with my own eyes, man.
Right, yeah, man. I mean, you got Ray J saying that he came into the studio, he seen Faith Evans sitting on Tupac lap. You got Natasha Walker saying that she seen Faith Evans' legs between Tupac legs or something like that. Then you got Drew Down saying that he opened the door, the hotel door,
Absolutely,
to let Faith Evans into Tupac's room.
Right.
So,
but like I said, that part right there, she basically disclosed that in the book, right? But the part where she tried to make it seem as if the timeline is what's most important here, right? The 18th, we at the Hollywood Athletic Club. That night on the 18th, you go back to the Peninsula Hotel with him, talk about smoke some weed, whatever. Talk about your guest appearance on Wonder Why They Call You Bitch. The next day, you go to the studio, y'all record the song. After that, y'all go back to the hotel in which she made up a reason that $25,000 that she said that Tupac owed her, right? She made up a reason as to why she was at his hotel, because you had other people that could confirm it. So if you see somebody somewhere, right, and they see you, you know, the first question or the thing that you would want to come up with is an alibi as to why you there. You know what I mean? Well, I went back to the hotel room to get my $25,000. When in the book, basically, you said that when Tupac had asked you, did you want to do the song with him, to record a song with him, you told him, in her book, I quote, she said, I'm going to need my money up front. So what that's basically saying is that you didn't get your money up front, right? You went to the studio, you met everybody, and so on and so forth. So when you deal with the dynamics of this whole situation, it was basically a lie. Now, okay, $25,000. You say Tupac owe you, right? Well, let's go. 27 days after you first met him, right? And 26 days after you recorded You Wonder Why They Call You Bitch, you're at the Waiting to Exhale soundtrack release party, right? And you're hugged up with Tupac in photos and smiling and grinning and laughing and everything is good. That's why I tell you that she had to make up the reason or the story, and it had to be made up after the Waiting to Exhale soundtrack release party because of that picture. That picture that could confirm it, that it was a lie.
So I want to backtrack a little, my man. You made a comment earlier. You said that Tupac and Faith Evans was already talking before they went into the Hollywood Athletic Club. If I'm not mistaken, man, I've seen a few interviews from Faith Evans, and she claims that Tretch is the one that introduced her to Tupac. So, how you feel about that, my man?
Well, like I said, once again, that was another thing that that absolutely positively wasn't true. And the reason, you know, like I said, I believe overall, man, the truth is always sufficient, right? And for some reason, she didn't feel like that was sufficient based on the fact if she told the real story that she pulled up on Tupac as he was getting out his car and was like, boom, and she, you know, was like, hey, Tupac, what's up? You know what I mean? And, you know, I think that would have been a little bit more to what people would categorize as why you being friendly with, you know, your husband's enemy. In which I think at that particular time, Biggie really wasn't Tupac's enemy. You know what I mean? There was misunderstandings that now we know later, hindsight looking into it, that really, you know, I don't think Biggie had anything to do with that situation in New York. So, but at that time, he had spoken some things in the Vibe magazine article Tupac did when he was locked up. You know what I mean? So a lot of people felt like that, but absolutely, positively not. Tretch did not make that first introductory. Like I said, you know, Tupac jumped out the Benz. She pulled up in the, you know, red M3, cherry red M3. And for most people who don't know, and they weren't there that night, Biggie actually had found out that night about Faith kicking it with Tupac and was trying to get in contact with Faith. She put a little bit of that in the book, but like I said, once again, the timeline in which she put that in there, it didn't happen then. She made it seem as if it happened after the Waiting to Exhale soundtrack release party. And it couldn't have happened then because, like I said, once again, you met him on the 18th, went to the studio, did the song on the 19th. So when you deal with that, I think that was the reason why she felt like she couldn't be truthful about that. You know, it was just a little bit too close for comfort, I guess.
Right. Another thing, man, if I'm not mistaken, because I heard this from Faith Evans as well. She made a comment saying that I guess something went on the Bad Boy tour, because she was on tour with Bad Boy or whatever, and I think she got into it with Biggie or whatever. So
I think that was a money situation she had mentioned. She had mentioned something about they wanted her to go do a promo tour or something like that, and the money wasn't really up front. She was saying, like, I think all of the other artists had got money or something like that in regards to that, and that was the reason why she came to LA. And that's how she ran into Tupac. She was going to do some writing for some other artists. And that was where the thing with the other artist thing came up with. Somehow the vocal she had did for some girl group, you know, somehow Tupac wanted to use that, which was basically a lie. And we know that now because we've heard the version of You Wonder Why They Call You Bitch with her on it.
Right. And that's the reason why I brought it up, is because do you think, you know, Faith Evans, she was going through whatever she was going through with Biggie and Puffy or whatever, so she came to LA. Do you think that she was probably scorned and she was just like, okay, Biggie, he out here cheating on me with Lil' Kim and Charlie Baltimore, you know what, let me just go to LA and smash Tupac or whatever?
Well, no, I don't think that she, well, I don't think she even, I can't really, I don't make assumptions and I don't want to do that. I don't know whether she knew if Tupac was out of jail or not. You know what I mean? Like I said, when she pulled up, it didn't seem like she had seen Tupac, you know, other than pulling up, and she was like, you know, hey, Tupac, like, what's up? You know what I mean? So I don't think that she knew that he was out of jail. And, you know, there's a lot of things that she had talked about on Drink Champs in regards to what she had found out about Biggie, messing with Charlie Baltimore, Lil' Kim, the whole 9 yards. So I don't know what her feelings was, but I do know this for a fact. If you look at the picture that her and Tupac took at the Hollywood Athletic Club, and you look at, you know, any woman can see this. If you look at how she holding her hand, she's holding her hand like this, like I ain't got my ring on. You know what I mean? Like my ring is not on my finger, you know, from that perspective. And like I said, you would have to pay attention to that to really gain what that was. And so, like I said, at the end of the day, I don't know what her intentions was, but I know that she didn't come to stay. She definitely came to play, though. You know what I mean? She didn't have a ring on, and for whatever reason, whatever they had been going through, I don't really know the intricacies of that, but I do know what I saw. So I can't really make assumptions as to what she was feeling and all of that, like I say, because I didn't know the intricacies of her situation with Biggie and what was going on at that time. But I do know what I saw when we was at the Hollywood Athletic Club.
How do you feel when Faith Evans say that she didn't know Tupac was on death row when she was in LA and she went to the studio and recorded with him? She claims when she went to the studio and recorded with him, that's when she found out Tupac was on death row, because she seen, you know, all the other death row members or whatever. So how you feel about her saying
I know that to be a lie, and first and foremost because Tupac, when they went back to the hotel, I'm sure he explained that to her. Yeah, that's something, because you number one, you're gonna get paid. We going back to the room. You just got out of jail. We're having a conversation, and where in that conversation does Tupac not mention, you know, I'm on death row? You know what I mean? It just doesn't. That's just not who he is. That's just not, from what I understand and being with him, being a friend, that's not his character. He's gonna let you know. And because, like I said, it wasn't a big thing for him at that particular time, because death row had no beef as far as with that Tupac was fully aware of at that time with Bad Boy. You know what I mean? That didn't involve anything like that. Didn't involve Tupac. Tupac thing was the thing in New York. that didn't transfer to him to death row and whatever they were feeling. And after that came together, it became some kind of like, I would think like marketing ploy. We're going to use this situation here at this particular time to escalate whatever's going on, the publicity. And then you seen in the Vibe magazine where they came out with Biggie and Puffy on the front of it, right? And it was the East and West Coast beef. When there really was no beef, and Tupac spoke on this, what was that, 4 days before he died? He was like, there really wasn't no East or West Coast beef. He said you have media, these media companies. So he spoke on that. But if you had a discerning eye, you would be able to see that for yourself and understand what that was.
Yeah, man, I find it hard to believe, if I'm not mistaken, I mean, because you was in Cali at that time. So I can only imagine when Tupac joined Death Row, that was pretty big, right? I'm pretty sure that went viral. I mean, of course, back in the day, I don't think it was a such thing as viral, but I'm pretty sure in the 90s, that was something that was pretty huge. Like everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, but like when I talked to Tupac, I was like, yo, I told him, I said, yo, motherfuckers can't wait to hear what you got to say, in reference to, all of the stuff that was said, who shot you and all of those things. Like, yo, I was like, he was like, yeah, he really, come, and I guess he was just deep in thought in as far as like his whole process and working things out. Right. But, I don't know, like today it would be a little bit more different, but back then it was, once the press releases and stuff like that went out, it was kind of huge. But once again, like I said, it didn't really start. What kicked that off, Tupac had said a few things in All Eyes on Me, but what really kicked that off and sent it to another stratosphere was Hit 'Em Up. You know what I mean? All Eyes on Me was going to be what it was going to be and perceived that way because Tupac was who he was. He went to jail. When he went to jail, he sold 2 million records. You know what I mean? Being behind bars. So once he got out, it was like, how was he going to respond? Because if you read the Vibe interview, he had said that he was done with thug life. He going to throw all of that away and all of those things, right? So it wasn't really a known thing of what he was going to do when he got out. But then once he got out and they dropped that California Love, it was like, it was just, that was like a monument. It was like an earthquake in California. Like, Pac is back. You know what I mean? That's what it was like. So I think once the music hit, it was more of something than what people kind of anticipated or what they were thinking about, because news really didn't travel that fast. So you had to wait for the Vibe magazine, the Source magazine, or whatever to really kind of gauge where a person was or the feedback that they would give, because it wasn't instantaneous like it is today on social media.
Right. Yeah, man. Even with the Vibe magazine, if I'm not mistaken, did Tupac make some comments about Biggie and Puffy in, the Vibe magazine about the whole Quad Studio incident? So
right.
Even with that, it was still a little known that Tupac wasn't seeing eye to eye with Biggie and Puffy. So I don't understand how Faith Evans was just clueless about,
Well, I don't think she was clueless. I think she knew, but like I said, once again, at the end of the day, how, like I said, Tupac was so charismatic, man, it didn't start off with him trying to like have sex with her. He was coming from a honest place. He was coming from a place of, let's do a song. And he reiterated that at the House of Blues. And like I said, so once they probably after the studio session, they get back to the hotel, one thing led to another, and she liked him anyway. I mean, I could tell that night at the Hollywood Athletic Club that she liked him. She was attracted to him. I mean, you know what I mean? Every chick in the whole place. I mean, he could have had any girl he wanted in there that night. Absolutely. So, with that being said, oh yeah, she knew what was up. But like I said, it wasn't from her perspective. I can't really get into what was in her frame of mind or what she had been going through that led her to that place where she felt that comfortable. It's a human thing. And like I said, for that, I don't really blame her, because we all are human and we make mistakes. But when you choose to consciously lie on a guy, you know what I mean, who was really trying to help you out. And you know that from your heart, that, like I said, you know, what y'all had, because like I said, once again, he could have released that recording of her and him in the studio and put that out there and went to 92 to Q and put it on the radio station. Like, yeah, we got Biggie wife at the studio with us, ha ha ha. He didn't do that because his thing was loyalty, and he understood, like, you know what, if she dealing with me, I'm dealing with her. Whatever their situation is, it is what it is. You know what I mean? Also, on October 25th, 1995, Chuck Phillips released that interview in the LA Times, and the interview was called "I'm Not a Gangster." You can look it up. And there's no mention of Faith being in the studio. There's no mention of none of that. And you know why? The reason why is because Tupac and them told him not to mention it. Yo, we're gonna keep that under wraps. You know, we're not trying to do it like that. You know what I mean? So that's why I say later on it came this thing where, you know, the record companies could see that they could use this as a publicity move. And then the Vibe magazine article with Puffy and Biggie on it came out, you know, East and West Coast. And I think, you know, that was one of the things that kind of fueled that fire, you know, where people feel in a certain kind of way. And it really wasn't that.
Right. Yeah, man. Yeah. You know, Arnelle Simpson, man. Arnelle Simpson and Treach was missing around?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, Treach told me he was with her that night. Yeah. That wasn't no secret. I mean, it was secret to most people. But like I said, once again, and see, that's another thing. Like, who would know that? If you weren't there, you wouldn't know that. You know what I mean? So, yeah. It was, you know, like I said, and they got pictures together. You know, there's pictures online of them, you know, back during that time when they was, you know, seeing eye to eye and you know, doing they 1-2.
Yeah, man, that's crazy, man, because if I'm not mistaken, she was messing around with Tupac, because I remember Tupac bodyguard Frank Alexander said that Tupac and Arnelle Simpson was messing around, and actually it's like 1 or 2 pics online of Tupac and Arnelle Simpson, you know, looking pretty intimate.
Well, that was like I said, once again, other than Jada Pinkett, if you saw Tupac, and I would say Left Eye too, I said, other than Jada Pinkett and Left Eye, if you saw Tupac dealing with a woman, or they were 9 times out of 10 intimate. So yeah, and the Arnelle thing is not no secret either. You know what I mean? Like I say, she was the hottest. Arnelle was popping, man. Like for that one brief, I would say, you know, you could call it 15 minutes, but her pops was a, you know, football legend in the whole 9 yards with that little murder trial and stuff like that. You know, she was it. She was it. She's a beautiful, beautiful girl. You know what I mean? And like I said, and it wasn't nothing for her, like a lot of women, to be attracted to Tupac, you know, whether she was dealing with Treach or, you know, whatever their situation was. Because sometimes, you know, it's a lot of times, you know, people have understandings. And it's like, you know, hey, you know, we doing what we doing as grown adults. We, you know, I'm not your boyfriend, you know, my girlfriend, you know what I mean? But we can be intimate. And, you know, when I see you, it's all good, baby. You know, whatever you need, you know, we can do it like that. And like I said, Tupac, you know, the same thing, you know, I get around. You know what I mean? You know, the song. So, you know, he explained that very well. So I think that, yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, man, as far as that goes, I mean, Tupac and Treach was real close. So, you know, that's a little, you know, crazy to see, you know, her missing with 2 friends. You know, they was pretty much like best friends at that time. So
nah, I mean,
you know,
I don't think it's crazy. I mean, you know, like I said, you know, we don't know the full understanding that Treach and Tupac had in regards to dealing with women. You know what I mean? And so, you know, that I won't really speculate on, but I do know what I know for a fact. Like I said, he was with Arnelle that night, and, you know, she was with him. And like I said, and we've seen the photos of Tupac and Arnelle and the whole 9 yards. So I won't really speculate as to what their agreement was or how they dealt with women. But like I said, you know, real players, you know, and real superstars and guys of that status, right? You know, if you got an understanding, you know, he ain't really tripping, because that's not his wife. Now, if that was his wife, it would be a little bit something different. You know what I mean? And like I said, not to put Arnelle out there like that, you know, whatever the situation was, it was. And she was a grown woman and they're grown men, and, you know, I ain't gonna tell them how to handle their business.